Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session today. As always, we will be taking questions at the end of the session, so you're welcome to post anything in the chat window as we go. And then just know that we will be answering your questions either throughout by responding to chat or at the end of the call, having you come off mute and ask your questions. So lots of time for Q&A at the very end of our session today. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get started. Our topic today is assessment using Microsoft Forms. So in a remote learning environment, we certainly have to kind of rethink how we are assessing our students. When we're face-to-face, we can look for those visual cues and check for understanding, but in a remote or hybrid environment, we don't always have that luxury. So that's where tools like Microsoft Office Forms comes in handy, Flipgrid, and those kind of tools are really great for assessment. We're going to focus primarily on forms today. So I'm going to go ahead and log into office.com with my school district email address and password. And then I am going to go to the office icon, the forms icon on the left-hand side of my screen. You can also access it by going to your waffle and choosing forms. Now, there is two types of forms that you have within forms, forms of forms. Say that 5 times fast. You've got new form, and then you have new quiz. So a form is informational gathering. That would be something that you would put out to students, maybe like an entry ticket or an exit ticket, or maybe if you're trying to gather data from parents, that would be when you would just use a regular form. If you want to do something that's graded, so like a multiple choice question or a multiple choice quiz or something along those lines, that's when you would use the quiz function. And primarily the difference between the two is the quiz form allows you to be able to have it self-grade. Also, there's another feature in there for giving math quizzes, which we'll talk about today as well. All right, let's go ahead and jump in and look at a new form. So when we open up forms, it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks as we go through today as to some ways to simplify making your forms and getting a better return on maybe people completing them. So first things first is the title. We have to give it a title. Now for this example, I'm going to show you, we're going to take a lunch order. Maybe not something we would typically do with our students, but I want to show you the branching feature that goes along with this, and this is a really great example to do that with. Let's go ahead and get a title on our form. So we'll call this lunch order. Now I can add an image if I want to add a graphic. So this would be great if you were going to do a form that you were going to send out to parents, maybe put a school logo or something on it, something fun. You can also add a description. So if you want to give more details about information that they'll find in the form or anything else, you can add that here in the description section. And then let's go ahead and start adding questions. So I'm going to choose to add new. Now, because I've been doing a lot with forms lately, I get a bunch of pop-ups. I'm going to go ahead and just close that. You may not, but you'll find over time that you'll start getting pop-ups because the AI behind form says, hey, I think I know what kind of a form this person wants to make. Looking at our options for different types of questions. So we have choice, text, rating, date. If we click on the down arrow, we have more like Likert, file upload, net promoter score, and then sections. So the ones we're going to focus on today primarily are choice and text. File upload and sections are also two that educators seem to use quite a bit. File upload literally gives the students the ability to upload a file. Now they do have to have an Office 365 account within your district to be able to do that, but it's awesome. So like let's say you're doing a math assessment and you have the kids working out their assignment or their problems on a worksheet and you want to see how they've done that work, they can snap a photo and then upload it into Forms. So makes it nice for you to be able to collect some additional information past just the forms assessment that you're giving them. And then sections is a way to break your form up. So if you wanted to have like a 25 question form, but you felt like maybe that would be overwhelming for people, you could break it up into sections and then just have different questions in different sections. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do a text question.
So I always, whenever I am doing a form, like to collect the first and last name of the people who will be filling it out. And I do this because in forms, if you require a login, it will gather their email address and their first name and last name. But it puts the first and last name in one cell, which we know as educators, that doesn't work for us because we're oftentimes working alphabetically by last name. So I always just ask a first and a last name question. That way I have total control over my data. So first name, I'm going to make this required. I'm going to do another one. Now, again, the AI behind form says, hey, you asked a first name question. Do you want the last name? So I don't have to type it. I'm going to just click on that and then choose add selected. It's going to add my last name. And then I want to make sure that this is required. So I'm going to select the question again, and I'm going to choose required. And then from here, I'm going to go on and add the rest of my questions. So again, this is a lunch order. So if people want to order lunch, so I'm going to do a choice question. And do you want lunch? Question mark. And it gives me some suggested options because of the way I've asked that question. So I'm going to choose yes and no. And that's also required. And then another question, and this one is going to be a choice question. So what would you like for lunch? So we'll do pizza, salad, and hamburger came up as an option, so I'm going to go ahead and choose it. This one I'm not going to require, so I'm going to go ahead and slide that slider bar off. If you wanted people to be able to vote for multiple things that they might want, you could turn on multiple answers. I'm going to leave that off because we are going to talk about branching, and multiple answers does not work with branching. All right, so let's go ahead and do our next question. So what kind of pizza do they want? Keep it basic. We'll do meat, cheese, and we'll do veggie. And then another one, so choice question, what kind of salad? Green fruit or pasta. And then the last one is what kind of hamburger? So again, a choice question. Plain and cheese. Give people lots of options. Okay. Now, I do have the ability to add some additional things to my questions if I want to. I could add an other option. So if I wanted to open Pandora's box and let people tell me what they wanted, I could choose other. Again, down here at the bottom, you've got the ability to have multiple answers required. And then we didn't look at this, but we had the ellipse, the 3 dots. And that gives us the ability to shuffle the options. So if we were doing an assessment where we didn't want the kids to have the same possible A, B, or C choices, they could shuffle. You could shuffle options. You can do a drop down. I'm going to show you what a drop down looks like when we get to our quiz portion of forms. You can add subtitles and then branching. And I'm going to show you branching in just a minute, but I want to show you what the form looks like before we get too far down that road. So first, let's go in preview. So up in the top right-hand corner, I'm going to choose preview. And it's just going to show me what the form looks like. This is as if a user was going to be using this form. If I want to see what it's going to look like on a mobile device, I can go ahead and click on mobile, and that will show you what it looks like on a phone. Now, just something to point out here, remember immersive reader, we talked about this in other sessions. The immersive reader will read the question to the whoever's taking this survey or this form. So they can click on that, and again, it will read it to them. I'm going to go ahead and hit the back button and go back to my form. And let's talk about design or theme. So this is a pretty boring, basic form. If I select themes, the AI behind forms says, hey, based on some of the word choices that you have in forms, I am suggesting some of these images. And I could scroll down and choose the one I want. If there's some here that I don't want and you just want a plain color, you can add a plain color, or you can even add one of the illustrations. I'm going to add the pizza with the pickles on it and broccoli because I've never seen that before. So There we go. We've got a great, cool background. If I want to go preview what this looks like, again, this is what it looks like on a computer. On a mobile device, it'll strip out that background just because it's taking up, it wants the form to fill up the whole screen on your mobile device. But if they're looking at it on a computer, they're going to see that background. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go back. And now we're going to talk about sharing. So how do I share this? If I click on share, I'm presented with a bunch of different options, different ways to share. So only people in my organization. What that means is they are going to be required to log in with their school district email address and password in order to gain access to this form. So this is great if you want to have a lot of control and gather specific data on your form. If you are giving this form to parents, this doesn't work so well because they don't have a district login. So this is where you would do anyone with a link can respond. So you would change it to that option. And now you're going to have a URL, and either one of these works. You'll get a URL that you can then share with your parents or your student population. You can share in Teams, an email, a website, so many different ways that you can share this. You can click on copy, that copies the URL. That then gives you the ability to then do whatever you would like with it. You can also do a QR code. So you can download this QR code. Parents can scan it. Students could scan it. Now, maybe not in a remote learning environment right now would QR codes make a lot of sense. However, when we get back to school, QR codes are awesome. One of the ways I've seen teachers use this is they'll make a form and like at a back to school night or parent-teacher conferences, they'll hang these QR codes around the room and, ask parents to scan them. Back to school night, the parents scan the QR code, and then it will bring up the form where parents can then answer information about volunteering in the classroom or, some things that the teacher might want to know about their child, all sorts of information that can be gathered. And again, parents are just doing it on their cell phones, scanning the QR code. The next option is embed, and the embed code will allow you to embed this into like a Sway or even into a website. So it's coded like HTML code, only it's all done for you. And then the last option is email. So if you have the email client set up on your computer, you can click on this to email it. I typically just go grab the link and just drop it into an email. I think it's a little bit faster at times. So that's how you share with other people, okay? So again, a link, a QR code, embed, or an email. Now, if another teacher would like your form, so let's say somebody on this call is like, oh my gosh, this lunch order form is exactly what I've been needing. Can I get a copy? You actually can. So I can, right down here, choose to share as a template, and I can get a link to duplicate. I can then give you this link, and when you click the link, it pops up and says, hey, do you want a copy? You say yes, and now you get a copy in your own section of forms. So when you go into forms, you would get your own copy of that form. You can edit it as you want. You can do whatever you want, and it won't affect the data or my form at all. Now, if we are doing maybe a collaborative type of a form, so maybe common assessment, a grade level, you're gathering data from a whole grade level or parents in a grade level, you might choose to do a share to collaborate link. And when you send this out, it means that everybody who has this link that you've shared with can come in and edit the questions or look at the data. So you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with what this form is, because if they change a question, it's changed for everybody. Okay, so collaboration means you're all working together on the same form. A template is like a photocopy. All right, so let's go ahead and share this. I'm going to go ahead and say anyone with a link can respond. I'm going to copy that. Now, just so you can see what this looks like for simulation purposes, I'm going to go ahead and pop open a new browser and paste that URL into my new browser. So I've got my form here. I can go ahead and fill it out. And I'm going to say, yes, I want lunch for this one, and I want a pizza, and I want a veggie pizza. Now, I have these other options down here, and they don't really apply to me because I want a pizza. I don't want a salad, and I don't want a hamburger. So I can either answer them or I can skip them, and now I can go ahead and say submit. And if I wanted to submit another response, I could choose submit another response. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put in one more person just so we can see what the data looks like. So Jim has answered no, that he doesn't want lunch, but he's still presented with all of those possible choices, which might frustrate him. So I'm going to show you how you can tweak your form so that those options don't all come up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and submit that. So now we've got 2 submissions to our form. So I'm going to go back over now, putting my teacher lens on, and I'm going to go back to my form. I'm going to just refresh my screen, and you can see now, so I've got my questions, and then just to the right of my questions, I have responses. And responses tell me the number of people who took it. And as students are taking this, you can watch them real time. As soon as they submit, that number will increase. Form shows you how many people responded, the average time it took to complete, if the form is active or not. And now I can come down and I can look at the details for this form. So I can choose to view results, and that will show me by each individual person how they answered. Or I can just scroll down through and just get an overall, kind of a big picture of how they answered. So I can see, oh, one person said yes, they wanted lunch. One person said no. One person wanted pizza. Nobody else wanted any of the rest of this. So again, just these graphs give you, the graphs and the counts give you a very quick snapshot of how people are answering. If you think about maybe if you're doing like a t-shirt order and you need to get a quick count of how many of each size you want, back in the day, we would more than likely send home a paper to parents to fill out and to put the sizes on, and then we would gather them all back up and either manually tally how many of each size we needed, or we might put it into an Excel spreadsheet, but we would have a lot of additional work, and there's potential for human error. With forms, it's doing all of that calculating for you, and it's putting it right here. You just have to go look at it and go, okay, this is what I need. So that's one of the great benefits of utilizing forms, is that it captures data for you, and then you can manipulate this data accordingly. All right, let's go over and look at our questions again. So if you recall, when I took this form as that other person, I had to answer all the questions, even though they weren't always applicable to me. So now we're going to look at branchings so that we can make it a little bit more specific. Branching is like choose your own adventures. It makes it so that students or parents, whoever, as they answer questions, it will either take them to another set of questions or it will take them to the end of the form, however you choose to set it up. And branching in forms is so easy. So to branch, I'm going to go ahead and click on my first question. And you can really click on any question, but I'm going to do my first one. I'm going to choose the ellipse in the bottom right-hand corner, and I'm going to select Add Branching. And then start going through my questions. So first name question is going to go to last name question. Last name question is going to go to the next question, do you want lunch? If they want lunch, then I'm going to have it go to question number 4. If they say no, then they're done. They don't need to answer anymore. So I'm just going to say end of form. And then going to what would you like for lunch? If they want pizza, it can either go to the next question or you can choose question number 5. If they want a salad, I'm going to tell it to go to question number 6. And if they want a hamburger, it's going to go to question number 7. Now, once I've started branching, you have to branch all the rest of your questions. Otherwise, they still kind of show up. So I'm just going to change all of the options under what kind of pizza, since there's really no next question for that, to end of form. Green salad. Now, my green salad, I forgot. I probably need to add in what kind of dressing they want if they have a green salad. So we're going to come back to this question in just a minute for branching. For hamburger, I'm going to jump down and I'm going to choose for each one to go to just to the end of the form. Now, I'm going to head up here and go back to my form. So I'm going to hit my back button and I'm going to come down and add a new question. And this one's going to be a choice. I'm going to say, what kind of dressing? 1,000 ranch and balsamic. Okay, and then I'm going to select my ellipse in that question. I'm going to choose add branching, which will take me back to my branching screen. So now for my salad question, I can say for the green salad, I want it to go to question number 8, which is what kind of dressing. And then for fruit and pasta, we're just going to go to the end of the form. So now, oh, and we have to do the same thing for the dressing question. Even though that's the last question, we still want to say end of form. All right, now let's go ahead and go back and look at what this looks like now from a viewer perspective. So here's the form that we've delivered. First name, last name. If they say no, they don't want lunch, they're done. It doesn't open up any other questions. If they said yes, then it asks, what kind of lunch would you like? If I choose a salad, then it will open up the salad question. If I choose green, it will open up the dressing question. So that gives me a lot of flexibility as far as getting people the questions that they need and getting them to respond appropriately. All right, so that is just a plain old form. Now, one thing that we didn't look at was the ellipse that were next to the share button. We're going to run over there real quick and look at that. So I'm going to select the ellipse next to share, and I'm going to go to settings. You do have the ability within forms now to be able to print it as well as make it multilingual. We're just going to look at settings for right now. And I will tell you this, the forms team just in the month of September announced some great new features that were coming out as part of forms. So keep an eye out for anything new that you might see show up here. When I click on the ellipse and I choose settings, I have, again, who can fill out this form. If I choose only people within my organization, I can set it up so that it will record their name and limit them to only one response per person. So again, if you want to really lock it down, that's how you can do it. Down under options for responses, you can choose to accept responses. You can add a start date and time or an end date and time. Those are really great to be able so you can manage and not have to go in and turn your forms on or off. If your form is just a straightforward form as far as no branching goes, you do have an option to shuffle the questions. So that will make it so every time someone goes in to take it, the questions are in a different order. Now, if you're like, okay, that's awesome, except what if my first and last name, I don't want those to be shuffled? When the shuffle option is selected, you have the ability to lock a range of questions. So if you wanted questions 1 and 2 to always stay in that order, but all the rest of them to be shuffled around, you could do that. You also have the ability to add a customized thank you message. So when I completed that form, it just said, thanks, your response was submitted. If you want to put something more personalized or maybe next steps, things like that, a call to action, you can choose to do your own custom thank you message. And then the last two are notifications about that form. So if you have only people in my organization selected, you will have the ability to have them receive an email that they've completed the form. If you are just choosing anyone, that option is not available. And then the last option is get an email notification of each response. So this means you're going to be emailed every time someone fills out this form. Now, I don't typically keep this option checked. I usually leave it off. The only time I check it is if I've got a hard and fast deadline, but I've extended it and I need to know that people have created or have filled out the form since I looked at the data. So just keep that in mind. If you say email notification, like when you give that form to the students, they'll blow your email up with those notifications. Okay. Now, speaking of data, under the response tab, when we looked at the response tab, we looked at the very quick view of the charts and the numbers. One thing I didn't show you was the ability to download the Excel spreadsheet. So if I click on Open in Excel, this is going to download a spreadsheet that's going to give me more data about the form. So it's going to tell me the start time and the end time that the person completed the form. If I require a login, it will capture their email address and their first and last name. And then all of the rest of these are related to the questions that I've asked. So if you want to go in and sort these alphabetically by last name, you can do that. And these little down arrows next to each question give you the ability to sort, filter, add colors. You can do all sorts of great things to really help you dig into your numbers. Okay, so that's the Excel spreadsheet behind forms. Now, if you download a form, you download the Excel spreadsheet to a form and someone takes that form or fills that form out after you've downloaded the Excel spreadsheet, you're going to have to go back and re-download the spreadsheet again. So just keep that in mind that the spreadsheet does not stay up to date. That downloaded one doesn't stay up to date. You have to download it each time. Okay, let's go and talk about quizzes. So I'm going to go back and head over here to forms. All right, so for a quiz, you have the option for a new form. I'm going to select the little down arrow, and this time I'm going to choose new quiz. I'm going to go ahead and do my new quiz. Now, everything is pretty much the same as far as all of the, the way you ask questions, the responses, the way you share, and so on. The primary difference is, though, when you add a new question, you have the ability to give a point value, and then mark which answer is correct. So as always, I'm going to just do a first name question. And I accidentally made this a choice question, which it shouldn't be. So I'm going to delete the question. I'm going to do add new again. I'm going to do text. So first name. I'm not going to give point value for it, but I am going to make it required. I'm going to do another one. Last name. That one is also required, no points. And now I can go in and finish adding the rest of my questions. Now, let's say that we were doing a common assessment and we were giving this to all of our 7th graders. So we've got, a class of 300 7th graders. And those 7th graders are divided out between 6 or 7 teachers. I might want to have my students indicate which, homeroom class they're in. So I'm going to do a choice question. I'm going to come down here, though, instead of having 7 options listed on the page, I'm going to choose to do a drop-down menu. So I'm going to choose drop-down, and I'm going to put my teachers' names in here. So we'll do Miss Morgan, Mr. McGregor, Miss Cook, Mr. Johnson, and so on, okay? Now, again, there's no right or wrong answer here. This is a required question. I want to be able to, when I download my spreadsheet, be able to sort by the teachers to give me a little bit more specific data. Okay, and now I'm going to go here to add new, and we're going to do a choice question. And just for some example purposes, I'm going to throw just a couple of different questions in here so you can get the idea. So this one is going to be about identify the rivers in Utah. Okay, so I've got identify the rivers in Utah, and I'm going to put possible options. So the Weber River, the Bear River, the Jordan, and the Mississippi. All right, now, next to each question, I can choose which one is the correct answer. Now, in this case, there's 3 possible correct answers. So I want to choose multiple answers. I don't want this to be required because if my kids don't know, I don't want them to guess. And now I can come up next to Weber and I can check the green check mark button that says, yep, that is the correct answer. The Bear River is also, and so is the Jordan River. So now those 3 will be marked as correct. And I'm going to make this possible out of 3 points. Now, just keep in mind one thing with forms, that if you have a multiple answer question, the students have to get all of it right in order to get all of the points. If they don't, it's not a huge deal. It just means you have to go in and do some teacher intervention. And now I'm going to type my questions. So answer the following equation. And then I'm going to put my equation in here. So I'm going to do 125x plus y equals, I'm going to say okay. And now, because of the type of problem that I put in here, I am getting some suggested results. So I can go ahead and say add all. It does tell me which one is the correct one. So I'm going to say add all. I'm going to change the point value to only be worth 1 point since there's only one potential answer. And now I'm going to go on and finish the rest of my quiz. So if I choose add new, because I've done a math question, Forms goes, hey, here's some potential other math questions that you might want to ask on your form, which is great. I can go ahead and say add all of those, and it will basically create a math quiz for me, which is really nice. I'm going to go ahead and just leave those off and jump over to what this looks like for students now and show you how it looks to a student when they take it, and then how you would grade it. So I'm going to go to share again. I'm going to copy. I'm going to change this to anyone with a link can respond for this example. I'm going to say copy, And then just like I did before, open another browser and I'm going to paste that question in. So here is the student side of things. I'm going to put my name on it. I'm going to choose my teacher. Going to choose the rivers in Utah, and I'm going to answer the math question. Go ahead and submit, and I'm done. So if I want to view my results, I can click view results, and it will show me which questions I got incorrect, and it will tell me how many points I got. Now, this might freak some students out because like this Utah Rivers was 3 possible points. I know 2 of those 3 are right, but I still got 0 points. So this is where you need to decide where you're making your quiz if you want students to be able to get this immediate feedback. I'm going to go ahead and close out of here and then jump back to our form. And I'm going to go in here to responses. And I can see again how many people responded, who responded, and then scroll through. And again, this just gives you a quick snapshot, just like in a regular form. It'll do the same thing in quiz. Now, for the human intervention part, for you as a teacher, you can come in here to review answers, and you can look at each student. Now, if the students were required to log in, their names would be up here instead of it saying respondent 0, it would say Jennifer Morgan. Because I didn't want to have to try and log in for this example, I just left it as anyone with a link. So now as a teacher, I can come down and I can look at question number 4 and I can say, you know what, she got 2 out of 3 right, so I'm going to change that to 2 possible points. I can also give additional feedback by clicking on the call out bubble to give the students additional feedback. So I could say, ooh, Mississippi, not quite the right answer, but you know, keep trying. So that's what it looks like from your teacher's perspective and that human intervention. If you want to look at a quiz by question, so if you know that question number 4 is going to have potential wrong answers, you can come up here and choose by question, and then you can look at each student by that one particular question and then make changes to the grade appropriately. Okay, now let's jump over and look at share. So under share, same as sharing in a regular form. Under the ellipse, though, you're going to see a couple of different options that you didn't see in the original when I was doing the demo for the original form. So first thing is quiz options, show results automatically. Remember when I had that other form open and it showed me which questions I got wrong? Kind of freaked me out because I'm like, wait, I knew I got 2 out of the 3 right. So that might generate some emails to you of, hey, wait a minute. If you don't want that to happen, you can turn off show results automatically, and then they won't see anything until you've posted the scores. Okay, I don't necessarily like to do that. I want my kids to get that immediate feedback. So this would be a great place to say, hey kids, if you miss some, I'm going to go in and change your points. So don't worry, just relax. But that way they're at least getting their immediate feedback. And then the other one is only people in my organization can respond. You can change this to limit so they can only take this quiz 1 time. Everything else is exactly the same. It's just the show options for quiz and then only 1 person to respond. Okay? You can download the Excel spreadsheet just like you did before. You also have the ability to post scores. Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to just jump over to Teams in a minute and show you how you can actually tie this to Teams. But if you're not using Teams and you want students to be able to see the feedback that you've given them, after you've graded the form, you can choose to post scores, and that's going to post their scores. So when they click on the link that they would have used to access the form, it will take them now to where they can see the details or the feedback on their form. Okay, so that's all about how to build forms. In the last few minutes, let's talk about how this works with teams. So I'm going to go over to my team and I'm going to pop into my team really fast. And you can do a form a couple of different ways. So if I want to post this form, I'm going to do my school lunch form. I'm going to grab the share link really quick, copy that, and then in my team, I can, in the conversation space, I can post, you know, please complete this form, and I can paste the URL in there, and then I can send it. Students will see this, and then they can click on the form. It will take them to forms and they can complete it. Another way to get the form to them is by adding it as a tab in your team. So you can do add as tab, and you can do forms, and then you can choose the form that you want. You can either create a form right here within, or you can add an existing form. And so it's embedded right here as a tab, or you can do it as an assignment where you add a resource. So let me actually do this. So we're going to do an assignment. I would fill out all the appropriate information. Under add resources, I would choose new link. I would paste that URL, and I would say attach, and then I would fill out the rest and then assign it to them. When the students come in to look at this assignment, they will see the link. They'll click on it. They'll fill out the form. They're not going to get any feedback or anything, and that's okay because it's just data gathering. But that way there's some accountability to if they've completed this form or not. Now, if you want to give them a quiz, so create a quiz that's graded and posted in Teams, you'll go to assignments, you'll choose create, we'll choose quiz. Now, we can create a new quiz right here within Teams, or I can select one of the existing forms that I've already created. So I'm going to choose this All Things Utah quiz. I'm going to go ahead and say next. It attaches it, and then it will assign it to my student. As soon as I choose assign, it's going to assign it to my students. It picks up how many points this is worth, time and due date. That's up to you how you want to put that on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose assign. Now, once my students have taken this assignment or this quiz, what will happen when I come back in as a teacher, their names will be listed here along with the scores for that quiz, okay? If you want to go in and do any, human intervention, changing their point value, you can choose to open in forms, and then you'll be able to go in and change their points, which will then be reflected here in Teams. So that's 3 different ways that you can get a form to your students. And then the very last thing I want to show you is polling in Teams, which is tied to forms, but it's not like building out an actual form itself. So if I start a new conversation and I do @forms, it brings up this great little forms bot. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and I'm going to choose to create new poll. And now I can build. This is just a quick and simple little way to kind of poll your students. So I can do one about how are you feeling today? So happy, sad, excited. And then I can choose next. And I'm going to go ahead and say send. And what that's going to do is that's going to embed this poll right here within my channel. My students can indicate how they're feeling. They can choose to go ahead and submit their vote. And then what will happen right underneath it is those scores will start to be tallied based on how the students are responding. So they can see the question and they can also see the results. Now again, Forms just announced some new great updates, and part of those is the ability to create a poll in advance. You saw me create one on the fly, but oftentimes as teachers we don't work that way. We want to create things ahead of time, and the Forms team has done a really great job of doing that. So by the time you watch this, you might see more information to come about it, or it might just be embedded right here into your forms. All right, that was a lot, and I thank you guys for bearing with and sticking with me for that whole session. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the chat window and see if any of you have any questions pertaining to what I have been presenting. I'll answer those first, and then if you want to come off mute and ask any questions, you're welcome to do that. For those of you that are like, oh my gosh, I'm good, I'm ready to go, you are welcome to drop off this call at any time, and have a great, fabulous day, evening, morning, wherever you are, and stay healthy, safe, and sane. Thanks so much, you guys, for joining, and we'll head over to the chat window now.